Now, for those of you who may have not taken a look at the title of the video and don't look at the actual playmat in front of you here, you'll probably be wondering why I have this swing big. It's because Arakni took me to a top 8 of a ProQuest today. I was able to get one of these fancy swing bigs. My last swing big, I only had 2 copies of swing big, so I needed to get another one. And I'm happy I was able to get one and earn it by playing in the PQs. So what we're doing today is we are going to just take a quick look and talk a bit about the deck itself, kind of how Huntsman played, my matchups, kind of do just an Armory recap or a ProQuest recap to kind of give you an idea about what I'm doing whenever I'm playing Huntsman. So it's we're going to do a breakdown of the deck, and then I'll go ahead and talk a bit about the actual matchups that we've had over the course of things. So if you do enjoy this Huntsman deck tech, please make sure to go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. If you have not already, I'm going to certainly be making more Huntsman content here on the channel. So let's go ahead and get started. So obviously, with Huntsman, you need a lot of equipment. You'll see this is a large stack of equipment here. And in this large stack of equipment, we have 4 different kinds of daggers. We have the Spider's Bite, we have the Scale Peeler, we have the Nerve Scalpel, and we have Graven's Call. I know the lighting is a little rough here, so I do apologize if they don't come out too great on camera, but we have Spider's Bite, Scale Peeler, Nerve Scalpel, and Graven Call. These 4 are matchup dependent. It's kind of specific into how you feel each matchup is going to be, but if you know your opponents on a lot of reactions, whether they be attack reactions or defense reactions, you want to play Nerve Scalpel. If your opponent is playing equipment that is really difficult, that's like they're out to blocking, is blocking with a card from hand and a piece of equipment, Scale Peeler helps a lot in that regard. Spider's Bite is also really good into any single hero that has attack actions, because this makes their next time block with attack action blocks for 1 less. And then, of course, the Fatigue Master itself, Graven Call. Graven Call gets a lot of value into this matchup, and I think that Graven Call overall is the just the best into this. Whenever you're trying to go super fatigue. So they're all matchup dependent, but we'll kind of go into that there. But those are the daggers. We've got those there. Then let's go ahead and talk about what we normally are running, which is the Mask of Perdition. You know what? Maybe I'll just put these up here. These go down here in the light where people can see them. The Flick Knives and the Black Tech Whispers. So these are the 4 here that you're running into most builds unless they're on Arcane. This is pretty much the main staple here. We, as Arakni, especially with Hunter or Hunted, you have the ability to buy back your mask and boots significantly more than when you were in previous iterations of the hero. So because of that, these get a ton of value over the course of the game. Sometimes you only use them once. I've had some games where they recur 5 to 6 times each. So it is possible. But that is our suite for the main set of armor. But if you need to take care of anything arcane-wise, we are also running the Arcane Lantern, the Widowclaw Tarsus, and the Widow Web Crawler. So the arms and legs instead of the... This is kind of differentiating based on like build, but some people like using the chest and the headpiece. Some people like using the head and the leg piece. Some people like using the chest and the arms piece. Like it's all different. But what I found best is that in arcane matches, you're probably not flicking this. You're not flicking a dagger in most cases. So you can easily go ahead and send, you can not worry about having to have this, because you're more than likely not going to, you're going to be sending damage at your opponent trying to disrupt them. So that's the build here in case you're going against Arcane. And then we'll kind of go into the main deck and talk a little bit about what my matches were like. Let's take a look into our attack actions. These are mainly the things that you're going to be sending at your opponents. It's kind of the best of everything that's in this deck. It's honestly kind of the reason why I like it so much, is because you have such awesome attack reactions, or attack actions, I should say. Most of your attacks are coming in for the same rate ninjas would be, which is 0 for 4, or 1 for 4 in some cases, but it's mainly 0 for 4. And it's 0 for 4 in like 18 different scalings, because if your opponent doesn't block this properly, you get a ton of value off of it. So taking a look here, we have 3 copies of Leave No Witnesses. We have 1 copy of Surgical Extraction, and 3 copies of course, in the light, we have Surgical Extraction. These here are kind of your bread and butter. These are the Majestics of the deck. Leave No Witnesses and Surgical Extraction being far more important into most matchups. But of course, it's all kind of based on, who you're going against. Eradicate, I initially had at 3. I did cut down to 2 or to 1 here as a tech piece, which we'll talk about later too. Then, of course, we have our regular 0 for 4s. We have Plunder the Poor. We have Slay the Scholars. We have Sack the Shifty. So all of these here, their silver components to gain silver are not that powerful. Or it's not like, you're not playing these specifically because you're like, oh, I'm going to hit silver. But these do hit kind of a nice array of what you're looking for when you're trying to hit off of these effects. So Sack the Shifty is looking for Go Again on base attacks. Slay the Scholars is looking for non-attack actions, and Plunder the Poor is looking for cards that cost 1 or less. So I feel like it covers a nice wide range of stuff, and also is just your 0 for 4s that on hit banish a card. Again, if they don't banish stuff properly, or if your opponent doesn't block properly, you can kind of get over that stuff. Our non-contract cards are 3 copies of Red Double Trouble. We have 3 copies of Command and Conquer, and 3 copies of Persuasive Prognosis. Double Trouble did a lot today. Being able to just kind of be a 0 for 5 so long as you have reactions on board here. This can clear some allies if you're going into gravy. Obviously, it threatens above what a D-React would be, so if your opponent is just expecting to block with a D-React and keep a whole hand, you can obviously send this and then use both your reactions, pump it to 5. They'll have to block with a little bit more than just their D-React. And then, of course, you have reactions to pump that over as well. CNC needs no explanation. The card is just super good. If you're running a deck that has a lot of blues, you're probably running this card. Persuasive Prognosis. This card is really powerful. It's a great late game blue. And also, sometimes you just send it for 1 and your opponent's like, ooh, this is kind of gross to not be able to block. And then you can just react over their defense if they just block with like a piece of armor or something. And you end up getting a card from their hand, and also you can then pump it to be able to get through your opponent's defenses and then still get the on-hit of Persuasive Prognosis, which is personally my favorite stealth card from NST. So with that being the case, that is our attack actions. So we've got all of these here in the deck. Pretty straightforward, I think, as far as a package goes. Pretty much most of your plan is just sending those 0 for 4s and just kind of making it happen. The next thing we have is our blocks and non-attack actions. I am playing 3 Fiddler's Green in the main, and also 3 Codex of Frailty. Obviously, Codex of Frailty being a very good card, and Fiddler's Green being very good into Syndra, as well as some other heroes in which it's okay if you're, if you're getting pummeled, you're going to have to discard a card. You discard this card, now you gain 3 life. So having it in deck is pretty good, especially if you're going against another disruptive deck. Just know that it has to go into the graveyard for that. So if you have to banish a card because of an effect, you do not get the healing off of that. So pretty important there. So we've got those. Then we'll go ahead and we'll move into our attack reactions. This one's going to be kind of spicy. I think this is kind of a very interesting... this is where you're going to kind of go, huh, when you see my attack reactions, because it is something. We are running 3 copies of Coercive Tendency, to nobody's surprise. It's really good in being able to get your opponent to kind of, you can sidestep your opponent by getting a contract card off the top and then giving this go again, or giving the attack go again, and then also swinging with all of your other assassin attacks, your 0-for-4s in here, with go again. I think I was able to go for like 4 chain links wide effectively in one turn with just 1 coercive. So it was pretty cool. You also, of course, get to snipe stuff off the top of your opponent's deck, which is important if you are looking for something that maybe initially was not on there, right? You attack with the contract card, you Arakni trigger, you see the card on top, you say, I don't really like that card. Let's see what else is on top. You play coercive on top of it. You're able to see the top 3 cards instead. We have 3 copies of Concealed Blade. Concealed Blade is just very good. It blocks 3. It's a blue. It pumps over for 1. If you have an empty dagger slot and you don't really have, like, you haven't been able to get that dagger back, or to be able to at least like swing another dagger, maybe you need more dagger outlet potential towards the end of the game. Concealed Blade is a great thing for that. And again, just a sneaky pump over by 1. It usually makes your opponent have to spend an entirely different D-react to block out just that 1 point of damage, which is huge for you. And then finally, the ultimate spice, 2 red shred, 3 yellow shred, and 3 blue shred. We are on 8 shred in this matchup, and or in this game, I should say. And the reason I'm bringing in this many shred, so many Huntsman lists are either on yellow shreds only, they're on yellow or blue shreds only, and you'll see that out of my attack reactions here, I do not have cut to the chase, red cut to the chase. I do not have it in the list. The reason being is because I value red shred so much more than I value so much more than I value a +3. This effectively says try your other D-react. If you didn't get it, too bad. You take some damage, right? -4 onto something is incredibly powerful. So it is important to note that I do think Red Shred did a lot of work today. And really, the shreds in general did very good. A lot of our local meta likes to block a lot, and shred just pretty much says, hey, I'm going to make sure that I hit you anyway, right? It's not going to be a pump, and then your opponent just gets to follow up with a D-react, right? Because when you send a Leave No Witnesses at your opponent, you're sending this for 4 in most cases, right? Your opponent then goes, okay, cool, I'll go ahead and block 4, right? With a D-react. Or maybe they block 3 expecting a D-react, and you just shred it. And if you shred that thing and they D-react, sure, right, you still get the same amount of value. But if they just D-react, right, you can then shred it and get the whole thing off if it's a red shred. Shred is also super good into heroes that have temper equipment. Usually towards the last part of a Verdance game or a Florian game, they want to attack with their, or they want to block with their bark skin of the Millennium Tree. And if you end up coming at them with a insane amount of, maybe just like 4 damage, right? And they block with the channel Millennium Tree because they're like, oh, okay, let's at least get an embodiment and then start getting maybe Earth cards engrave or make sure I'm able to present some stuff there. You can then shred their embodiment of, or their bark skin, and it will be, you'll be able to go get full value, and you'll destroy their bark skin, which is huge. So that is my reactions. So these are the only reactions we have in deck for attack reactions. These ones here. And then finally, we have our defense reactions here in the main board. So we are, of course, running 3 copies of Hunter or Hunted. We are also running, let me go ahead and get this over here. We are also running 3 copies of Fate Foreseen, 3 copies of Sink Below, and 3 copies of Shelter of the Storm. That's right, 12 D-reacts in this deck. And let me tell you, the things that Hunter or Hunted can do, I genuinely think this card is an MVP for just like the stupidest reason. Sometimes it doesn't hit. I actually have some gripes about this card that probably lost me the game in my top 8 match today. But I have to do some testing to make like some actual decision points for it. But outside of those specific moments, Hunter Hunted did so much work for me today. I mean, quite literally just being able to go ahead and say, okay, cool, block 4, take a look at the top card of your deck, banish up to 3 copies of it, right? And something that's really important about this card is you need to have a lot of knowledge into the decks in order to know some odd things there too, because if you hit this and your opponent has an ability that draws a card after the Arakni trigger, they have a response to respond, or they have a priority window to respond. And if they have something that allows them to draw a card, they will draw, right? In that scenario, you kind of just want to be knowledgeable of the matchup and know exactly what you're looking into. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Obviously, we have a fridge here, right? We've got the shelters for when we need to do stuff with like Syndra specific things, if we're trying to pitch them or discard them. Sinks and Fates. Fate allows us to dig closer to our Hunter Hunteds. Same goes with Sink Below. We get to also dig if we're trying to sink for stuff. So yeah, but obviously I think biggest contender, biggest winner of this is going to be Hunter Hunted. I just think it is probably the best in the deck so far. So that is our main there. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 cards in the sideboard, which means we have 57 in main. So 57 in main. I like to go over the 60. There are times in which maybe 60 is a little bit more prevalent, especially if you're playing into another super fast deck that you actually want to see like your disruptive stuff first. Then playing a clean 60 is probably good. But outside of that, we are running a Remembrance for fatigue matches. We are running Razor Reflex for Gravy Bones, as well as just additional go again stuff. We have 3 Sigil of Solace in the sideboard for more life gain, and also just being able to... this is really for like RKO. RKO is kind of like an insane deck, and if we get paired against it, we want to have more life. We're also on 3 Oasis Respite. This is because I knew so many of my locals were on Verdance that I felt I needed to play. It's Verdance, Acilio, the whole 9. But even at the level of, you know, what do I want to do with these? These are just good 4 blocks, right? They block 4. They're good into Warrior to stop Reprise. They're good into the Earth Heroes. If they're trying to channel Millennium Tree, you can Oasis Respite the Rune Chant that's coming in for 4 and block it out and gain a life, and then just AB the rest. So it's got answers in a tree. It's just pretty good. The only downfall is it costs 1, so you want to make sure you have Tunic up if you're trying to play it. But sometimes you get lucky, you know, you pitch a blue into Arcane or something, and then you can use 2 floating resources to Oasis if you have both. And then the big tech for today, which actually absolutely saved my ass, 3 copies of red Gravekeeping. Gravekeeping is probably did a lot more work today than I expected it to. And the reason being is because I paired against 2 Gravies today, which we'll talk about later, and a Syndra in top 8. But I paired into 2 Gravies out of the 3 Gravies at our locals. I paired into 2 of them. And so because of that, I initially thought I was not going to bring this card. I was like, well, if I just get paired into Gravy, it's whatever. I'll take my losses and, you know, we'll figure it out. But there's not going to be a lot of people on Gravy. But out of the 3 Gravies there, I paired into 2 of them in Swiss. And I definitely think that this card was my saving grace, because this just says on attack, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. So if your opponent is trying to stack up a Whaler turn and you get this in hand, you see the Whaler in their graveyard, all you need to do is Tunic resource, send 5, right? You send 5 at your opponent goes, okay, well, it's just vanilla damage on hit, but on attack, I banish a card, which means that I then take their Whaler plan away. I just banish the Whaler and they're done. And you can do that for anything. You can do that with chums. You can do that with rigor mortis. You can do it with sawbones. You can do any of them. And it's really important to do that because the allies are a big thing in the deck. And while you're capable of fatiguing them without this, this is uninteractable tech into a Gravy Bones. This just says, go ahead and banish one of your allies. Now, of course, if they don't have an ally in there, that kind of sucks, right? And at that point, you could probably choose something like Prismatic Leyline if you're trying to actually send this card, because usually they're going to play something like Scuba to try and get a Prismatic Leyline back into their deck. And if you put them into Banish Zone, they don't get those same abilities. Gravekeeping just kind of did a ton of work. And I do genuinely think that it was my saving grace today in my Swiss matches to get me to top 8. So that is pretty much the main core of the deck. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about my games and kind of showcase, how my day went. So how did Huntsman really perform, right? This Huntsman here took me to a top 8 of the ProQuest. What did I have to face in order to get to a top 8? Well, let me tell you. Round 1 was into a Verdance. Shout out to Sam, who also made it to top 8. Our game was super close, and it was a game that I was dreading because, one, if the Verdance is good, and I know Sam is a good Verdance, it's hard for me to get things like Hunter hunted off. I have to be very, very specific about my banishes with coercive tendency, which allows me to just look at the top 3 cards and banish something. So there was a lot of very specific changes that I'm like, all right, well, maybe this isn't going to, this probably isn't going to work out. We also tested the matchup to try and see something. And I don't know how, Arakni does very well unless they get lucky, right? That's pretty much what happened in this situation. I was like, okay, cool. Let me hope to see my coercives early. I see my coercives. I look at the top. It's like light up the leaves and burn like some other stuff. Anytime I would see the top 3 cards in my opponent's deck, none of them were healing potions. None of them are rampant growths. And I'm like, well, okay, whatever. Guess I'm just going to figure it out from there. So with that being the case, you have significantly more options available to you because you're like, well, if you can't get their potions or their rampant growth, because a Verdant should be on a combo turn or combo game plan into you, when they're not, you win. When they are, you have to be very specific, because if you don't see anything like a healing potion off the top to banish, or maybe you don't shred your opponent to be able to, or shred your opponent's blocks to get the top card of their deck, like there might be a rampant in there. The other downfall with playing into Verdance is that Verdance normally is not sending attacks at you. Verdance is usually just sending Light Up the Leaves, Burn Bear, Pulsing Aether, sending in a Surgent Aether Tide, pitch stacking their deck, and then they're good to go, right? In this scenario, I was almost certain I was dead because we were down to the last cards in deck, like the last couple of cards in deck. Sam had all 4 healing potions and the Panamu Amulet out. And I don't know, like there was just like nothing else I could have thought to do. But I caught them on a really, really good turn because I played a Leave No Witnesses, and I like pretty much just showed them. I was like, this is gonna hit, right? If I have shred and you block and I shred this, I'm gonna get your arsenal, right? And their arsenal was a rampant growth, so they needed to keep it because I already was able to snipe one off the top by just hitting them with like a Plunder the Poor or something. I just kept it on top of set it instead of putting it on the bottom because I was like, well, I want them to see it early. But overall, it didn't end up working out. There was not a spell available for Sam to send at me. I was sending more and more damage. I was sending surgical extractions. I was sending all of these things to try and blow up his arsenal. And eventually I just kind of overwhelmed him with the shreds I had left in my deck. He was blocking like 9 on my Leave No Witnesses, and I would just say, okay, no blocks or no reactions, pass. And we were good to go there. But I did end up getting there against Sam, which was really, really, I think, insane for me. I'm not sure. I think there maybe were just some blocks that needed to be changed, but overall, the game went exactly as I expected, except I definitely thought I was going to die, and I didn't. So cool. Moving on to round two. Round two, we go against Gravy Bones, another awful matchup, as I had mentioned earlier, for Arakni Huntsman. And with that being the case, I was like, okay, there's just no way I'm going to win. I end up going, and we go first. We win the die roll. We go first. We're very much so just sending stuff. We're banishing stuff. We dagger. Or no, yeah, we dagger, double trouble. And double trouble is red, obviously. And so it's coming in for 3. If you react twice, then you banish the top card of your deck. My opponent is like, okay, I'll block 3 here, right? And I said, okay, cool. I'm going to pay 1, Razor Reflex, and then flick my Graven Call at you. And then, or not flick Graven Call. I think I masked on top of it. So I bumped it to 6, and then I bumped it to 8. It hits because there's no defense reaction there. It hits. I get a Conqueror of the High Seas and a some other like power card in the deck. I think it's like a chart or something. I can't remember what I end up getting. But it's like, it's huge for me. It's huge. I get a conk out of the deck turn 0 because I leaked damage through, and they took like 5 damage. So huge for me, right? Game goes on continuously. We're kind of back and forth. I'm killing allies. They're sending a bunch of damage. And I'm just kind of like slowly gaining life. I'm whittling them down a little bit, but they're able to get a board online, and I can't clear that thing really. So I'm just like, well, maybe what I can do here is I can send a double trouble in at my opponent to go again with something like a Black Tech Whispers, because they're not going to block, and then hit for 5 and then hit an ally. That way I'm doing both deck damage and also doing damage to the allies. Well, I mean, I pretty much just like continuously push through all of this, and I hit a double trouble again, and on the top was like a tipple and a whaler. And for those of you who are Huntsman mains, you know, whaler just kind of is really difficult for you to kill unless you are specifically teching for it. I was not specifically teching for it, but I had outs. I had ways to do something. But that whaler did get hit off the top, and that was huge for me because it meant, okay, I now get huge amounts of value because I know you only have 1 left. My opponent, I should shout out my opponent, Luke, of Anarchy Please. I'll leave their stuff in the description. Huge Dash player. So it was very interesting. It's always interesting to see them on Gravy. I know they're making the pick because it is a really good deck. And he's a great pilot when it comes to decks. So it's at least very good to see. But anyway, after that double trouble turn, they play a Call to the Grave. They put their second whaler into the graveyard. When they do that, I go, okay, cool. I just need to draw into my gravekeepings, right? If I draw into 1 gravekeeping, it means the end game plan for them is donezo. I don't have to worry about anything else. So I can hit that, and we're good to go. I then proceed we go in a war of attrition, back and forth. I'm clearing allies. I'm blocking their conquerors. I'm blocking out all this other stuff. I'm getting Fiddler's Green blocks on tipples. I'm in it. And Luke still has this whaler in grave. Maybe, I don't know, it felt like 10 turns later. Still had it in there. And they were waiting until I was at least below 10 life to then just kind of set everything up and get whaler out to send. The downfall was that they had a Blood in the Water in their arsenal, and I didn't really attack them. I attacked their allies. And also, it's just like another red that isn't really, my goal is to kill allies over killing life, because I can worry about that later, right? They're not going to be able to gain life for at all pretty much after that. And also they don't have a weapon, so that means I get the value. But Eventually what happens is I'm at like 14 and I'm like, I need to draw. I have 3 copies of Gravekeeping. How the hell have I not seen one yet? I draw 4 cards. One of them's a Gravekeeping. My Luke just sends like Rigor Mortis into also the first Whaler. No, that was a different match. They send a Rigor Mortis and then they send a Chum, so it's just like 10 damage. I block 10, I Tunic, I swing with Gravekeeping, I deal 5 to them, and then I also banish the Whaler from their graveyard, which is huge for me, right? Huge stuff, because I'm able to legitimately just like continue to push through damage, and I did. There was also a small punt on Luke's end, but I'm sure Luke will speak on it in his video should he make it. But yeah, that's pretty much that for the gravy game. So I did win. We didn't go to time. We were like maybe 5 minutes from time. But it was very, very close. And I just kind of persisted well enough. I got lucky on my Gravekeepings and just keeping up with everything and making sure my life total was high, and it wasn't an issue. My third game was into a Florian. So you're already seeing, right? I've gone into all of these awful freaking matchups so far, and it just has not been easy for me. But what I am doing now is I'm like, okay, Florian's going to try and go long. My game is to try and go long, or at least try to kill them faster. So we'll see exactly what happens. They do get to gain life if they're at lower life than me, and so because of that, I almost want to keep myself lower than them, so that they don't get things like Everbloom life. They don't get to do Arcane Seeds life. They get to do Arcane Seeds, but they don't get to do life. And keeping them off Everbloom life means that they don't get to get the full value of, of fatiguing me effectively, right? I hit a German off the top. I hit a bunch of other stuff. Like I got a lot of really good Hunter Hunteds. But it came down to a draw. Not anything against Addison, who is my opponent, is a head judge for a lot of our stuff here, and I really do appreciate the work that he does. But it was a very close game, and we kind of had a discussion of like, where could it have gone? Addison was very confident that he was able to, he had some semblance of a plan. I definitely think that I probably could have got there, but I was more, well, I guess I shouldn't say probably. I'm like 95% sure that I get there, just because I have so many more blues in my deck, and I'm at less life than him, so he doesn't get to do any kind of healing. He just gets to make 14 rune chants and then do that. So it's interesting, but I do think that, unfortunately, just because neither of us wanted to concede, we instead just went to a draw. So we ended up going to a draw. And then round 4 was into Acilio. Shout out to Billy. Acilio is like my worst nightmare. I don't know how I even beat it. I think I just need to like continuously put on pressure and never stop. Unfortunately, I don't know how to do that in a deck that does not have Go Again naturally. So because of that, I just kind of have to continuously send just like, everything and its mother into it. It's very difficult. I brought Nerve Scalpel into that matchup. I don't think I needed to. I think I probably could have sent in Spider's Bite instead, but it is what it is. I got blown up, so I went 2 wins, a draw, and a loss. The standings got posted, and I was in 8th place. There was one more round to determine final top 8, and I had to win. I play against Noah. Noah, if you're watching, fantastic game. Noah was on Gravy Bones, and this was another, again, I just don't, I feel confident knowing that Gravekeeping works, but I don't feel confident that I'm able to just like absolutely tear apart my opponent to prevent that from happening. But effectively what happened was there was a turn in which Noah was able to get like 8 floating or something, and they were able to summon Whaler and still attack with Whaler. They also proceeded to hook. This was coming in for 11, and I had 12 block. They had not made a gold yet, and so because of it, I said, block 12. Blew up Hook, which I think was relevant in the long term, right? But it is very interesting to see that was the case there. But I do know that our game went. I started just like slamming into my opponent. I started hitting Noah with a lot, banishing cards off the top. I didn't see as many allies from him that early on, so I just was able to just continuously send a whole bunch of damage into them. Banished a whole bunch of cards off top. I think I ended up hitting like 4 allies or something off the top of the deck with just like Plunder the Poor or Leave No Witnesses or whatever, right? But I did also hit a Call to the Grave on a Hunter Hunted. I caught them off guard where Gravy had no gold, and so I was able to block 4 on a Conqueror of the High Seas. Take a look at the top. It was a Call to the Grave. I was able to get all 3 copies of Call to the Grave to the Banish Zone, and that certainly made the game a lot easier because it just meant that Back Alley Break Line doesn't really do as much outside of like swell turns. So it was a pretty close game, though. Still, I took a lot of damage towards the end to really send like a lot at face, but there really wasn't as many threatening attacks. It was just like send 6 or send 4, pass. And so I went, all right, cool. I'm just going to crack back at this with my life total and hope for the best. And I was able to get there. So good job. So that's it, right? Swiss is done. We go look at pairings. I'm still 8th seed. So I'm in. I get top 8 and I get one of these bad boys. So super excited to have it. I then get paired into a Syndra, and Syndra was Syndra was somebody coming in from out of town, ended up making it to the finals of the event. So very good player. And obviously Syndra's a very, very good deck. My deck blocks a lot, and I still just don't feel like I ever had an edge, because the unfortunate thing with Syndra is that if you can keep her off of multiple cards, then you're fine. But only like 2 of my cards, Persuasive Prognosis and Surgical Extraction, are actually cards that hit the hand. Hunter Hunted technically hits the hand too, but it has to be very niche, very specific. So unfortunately, it is it's very interesting. It's a very interesting game. The downfall to all of this was that there was a turn in which they were sending quite a bit of damage. I also got a Double Trouble off, and I got a Wrath of Retribution off the top, so I was like, sweet, we're good. We don't have to worry about Wrath for the entirety of the game, pretty much. So we knew that wasn't happening. My opponent was also on Art of Dragon Scale, and I probably didn't need to actually block that, because they would have just gotten my Tunic, or they would have gotten my arm, my Flick Knives. And I'd imagine they would have gone for my Flick Knives over my Tunic. And I probably could have just continued to send more damage there, but we'll see. Then, essentially, we continued through our game. I had a huge life lead at the beginning. It was like 45-20. And I was just able to send a lot at my opponent. I was sending Go Again on hits, banish top cards of deck, go through all those things. But I wasn't able to secure cards from their hand. So their responses were just like, cool, okay, I'll take 12 no blocks, send 20, threaten a mass trigger. You know, okay, like you're not going to be able to mass trigger. That sucks. And then we're just kind of done. Like Flick Knives is just like really powerful in that deck. So much so that it's just like, when do you block, right? Like, when's it correct to block? You never really feel like you know when you're blocking. But eventually what happened is I had to pivot. My hand ended up becoming not anything that I could like actually strip from my opponent. So I said, all right, cool. I'll just go ahead and I'll send, I'll just block everything, right? I'm at like a life total of 43 or whatever. I'll just continue blocking until eventually they run out of cards, and then we're in a good spot. But Flick Knife every single turn. Some turns I didn't have the correct, like, I just couldn't know to block properly in those ones. But there was a turn in which I think was like the turning point, really, because I probably could have used some of my cards in my hand to block out more overall damage to my opponent. And instead, what I did is I pitched 2 reds and a tunic resource to play Hunter Hunted. It costs 3 resources for you to play Hunter Hunted, so it's very expensive and normally costs you a card. And usually, in the best case scenario, you have it parked in Arsenal, you pitch a blue, block for 4, and then you can block out the rest of the hand, and you'll be good to go. The downfall with this one was that I had to give 2 cards and a tunic resource in order to block 4, and my opponent proceeded to then go, okay, cool, sure, name whatever. And I named a card. It was like Blaze Headlong. They only had 1 Blaze left in deck. They didn't have any Blaze in hand, which is what I was hoping to hit. And then they just continued on with their onslaught, and I only had 1 card in hand to block, so it was like 7 damage. It really, I think it was like 14 damage or something towards the end of it, because they were able to get mass triggers and they were able to do all this other stuff. It was a really, really good turn, and I think that if I had just instead blocked a little bit better to block out the mass turns, maybe we would have been a different scenario. But I did do a really cool thing where towards the end of our match, I only had like 4 life left or something. My opponent sends in a kunai, and I pay 3 into I pitch a blue, come in with a Hunter Hunted, and I'm like, all right, if I can name the good card in their hand that they have, then I could rip like, I don't know, maybe 2 cards from their hand, and this will be huge, right? But I have, I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, cool, it's fine, we'll block 4. My opponent says in responses after the Arakni trigger, because I look at the top and it says Shelter from the Storm. I'm like, okay, Shelter from the Storm. I know there's only like 1 left, I think. Maybe 1 in Arsenal if they're like lucky about it. So I'm like, shoot, I don't know that we're going to be able to do that. But my opponent goes, okay, I do have a response. They play Throw Dagger. Throw Dagger allows them to flick a dagger at me and draw a card, which they proceed to do so. I don't have the Shelter in hand, so I can't prevent it. They go ahead and hit me. They draw a card, and now I'm in the blind. And I'm like, all right, well, I just got to name something that like I know that you don't have all copies of in your grave yet or in your banish zone yet, something that you probably will want to keep or were pitch stacking to keep in your deck at all times. And so I definitely want to make sure I'm able to do that. My opponent's just like, yep, I don't have any more things. Feel free to name a card. I name Brand with Cinderclaw. They flip over the card and reveal it. It is Brand with Cinderclaw. So I hit Brand. The only thing that would have made that hit so much better is if they got it in their hand. If they had a Brand with Cinderclaw in their hand, or 2 even, I mean, night and day. Night and day, this match would have been. But unfortunately, they reveal their hand. They have the Shelter that I saw earlier because they threw Dagger. And then they have like 10 more damage on board. I'm sitting here with 2 3 blocks in my hand. I'm at 4 life. And I go, well, shoot. I don't know. We'll be able to do it. So they send damage. I block. They flick knife. And then they send their arsenal, which is like a snatch for 4. And I die. So I definitely think I need to maneuver the match a little bit more. The downfall is that with Hunter Hunted into that matchup, it is really difficult to determine what your play patterns are, because it should just go into Arsenal immediately and it feels so much better there. But if you draw into a hand of all reds, you can't de-react. Like, you just can't. You can't de-react because you're not going to pay 3. You're not going to pay what would be block 9 or even block 10 in some cases to block 4. Unless you know that you're going to snipe some stuff off the top of your opponent's deck or in your hand or in their hand. It's just not worth it. So I think that it's still a very good card to play, but I think you just need to be more resilient with it. Don't just like block it out or send it out on the first thing. I think it's better just to like continue to gain life. I still had some sigils in the deck. I still had, I think like a Fiddler's Green left. And so I probably still had 9 life available to me over the course of it. If I just blocked out, continued to go down by like 1 every single time, eventually they would have run out of starters, and that would have been good. I also did keep the grave keepings into that deck, which were kind of interesting towards the beginning of the game because I was able to send in 4, and then I was able to give it go again with Razor Reflex, and then I was able to send gravekeeping while they had a dagger in arsenal or in grave, and they pitched 3 to put the dagger back into their thing and then keep 1 card. That was, if I was able to keep that kind of momentum up, I would have won. But unfortunately, I was not able to do so, and I did lose in the top 8. But overall, I think Arakni did pretty good. I think that Arakni can. I think Arakni has good play. Obviously, if you're playing into a better player, your odds of winning are down pretty hard. Not that any of my opponents that I won against were bad, but I think overall it was just a luck factor for some of it. But Huntsman made it to a top 8. I was happy to bring Huntsman to a top 8. If I got LL points on Huntsman, that would have been sick. But I think that just solidifies that, like, I do really like this hero, and I do think the hero is capable of winning. And I do think that overall, we're going to see more and more of Huntsman here on the channel, more Huntsman at our locals, and we're just due to have a great time. So thank you all so much for watching this deck tech and my breakdown of the ProQuest. If you have any questions about the deck or anything of the sort, feel free to go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. I'd be more than happy to go ahead and chit chat with you guys in regards to the deck. You know, if any of you are in the Huntsman discords, I'd love to. I'm going to post an update for that thing there too, so that way people can see it, and we can kind of talk about my matchups and how they went. But expect some more testing moving forward here with Huntsman, while we also go into more Silver Age stuff. And I hope you all continue to have fun in the flesh and blood. And I will see all of you beautiful Ashwings in our next video.